Following a shooting incident near the White House, US President Donald Trump has announced a hardline policy reset. He's declared his administration will work to impose a quote-unquote permanent pause on migration from countries that he has termed as third world. This sweeping, non-specific measure is part of a broader strategy which the president stated is aimed at allowing the US immigration system to fully recover and to remove any foreign nationals deemed to be a public charge or not a net asset to the country. The rhetoric accompanying the announcement has suggested a significant tightening of legal immigration pathways alongside existing efforts to curb unauthorized migration and restrict access to federal benefits for non-citizens. This broad directive is accompanied by specific targeted policy actions from the US Citizenship and Immigration Services. Following the incident, the agency director ordered a full-scale, rigorous re-examination of every green card issued to permanent residents from 19 countries of concern, which included Afghanistan, Iran, Somalia, and several others. This review empowers the USCIS officers to consider an applicant's country of origin as a strong adverse factor when evaluating immigration benefits. The administration has also formally pursued actions to end various federal benefits and subsidies for non-citizens and is working to tighten the definition of public charge, which could affect any immigrant or green card holder who utilizes certain government services. Meanwhile, for Indian nationals, the immediate targeted impact is minimal. The country, of course, is not included on the list of 19 nations that are subject to the urgent green card review. But the use of the term third world countries has introduced a significant level of, one can say, uncertainty. While India was historically non-aligned, as many of you may know, during the Cold War, which was a common outdated definition of the term, it is now classified as a rapidly developing major global economy, and of course is not listed anymore amongst the United Nations least developed countries either. The potential, however, long-term implications for the massive India-US migration corridor lie in the general chilling effect of this very restrictive rhetoric that has been brought back and the possible creation of a new undefined criteria for future visa and green card applicants, particularly the high-skilled professionals and students from India who represent the largest cohort of legal immigrants seeking status in the United States. But what does this truly mean? I take that conversation forward. With me, Ambassador Baswati Mukherjee, former diplomat. We have with us Mr. Surinder Singh Lali, international affairs expert, Dr. Martan Jha, contributing editor to NewsX, and Joyita Basu, editor of the Sunday Guardian, with us. Let me begin with Ambassador Mukherjee. Ambassador Mukherjee, your thoughts, ma'am, on the larger implications of America's ties with several nations if they keep every few months, if they keep regurgitating their policy on immigration, on migration. Earlier there was a lot of confusion with the H-1B visas, then that was resolved, and now you have one shooting incident, and of course every country, ma'am, has the right to protect its own interests. But certain statements come from the President of the United States which then have a deeper, larger meaning and implication. Your thoughts on the same?
Well, first of all, I regret that he used the word third world because that is completely passé now. Nobody uses the word third world countries. They either say developing countries or least developed countries or emerging economies. None of this affects India at all. If you look at the list of countries, they are countries. Earlier, he had said that he wants to restrict giving visas to citizens from such countries. Ironically, in the meantime, he welcomed in the White House the president of Syria, who was branded as a terrorist and has spent time in an American prison, but then had the facility of shaking Donald Trump's hand and being greeted like a VIP with US Syrian ties being reset, etc. So these are all issues which he picks on from time to time, and then depending upon the situation, he changes his mind. For example, there is a limitation to what he can do towards genuine green card holders and what kind of privileges they have, because there he is restricted by the courts, because United States is a country based on rule of law. So beyond a point, he cannot take away from legal residents, green card holders, regardless of which country they are from. If they have committed no crime against US laws, he cannot just take away their federal benefits. On the other hand, he can certainly restrict uh, immigration from such countries that he is listed. Such countries, they already have been put on the limitation list as far as visas are concerned. The third point here is that the person who did this was an Afghan veteran who had served in the US Army. There have been many cases in the past where American veterans, white people, have reacted in such a manner because they suffer from what they call post-conflict trauma. So we don't know why this individual acted the way he did, but there have been earlier cases which has been put down as trauma because of conflict, etc., etc. They go through psychological and therapy, etc., etc. So we don't know enough about this incident, but I think that we should not allow it to cast any shadow on the India-US relationship. It does not affect us at all. We have taken back illegals without arguing about it. We have tried to stop illegals from going to the United States. And on the other hand, as you rightly pointed out, the H-1B visa is in the process of being resolved. And President Trump has been forced to concede that if he sends back highly qualified workers, be they from South Korea or from India or even from China for that matter, they can't be replaced by what he terms as people standing in a unemployment line waiting for benefits. He's right. They cannot be replaced. A person who is a nuclear engineer or doing something which is vital for America's core security interests and happens to come from India cannot be replaced by an American who is half literate and you can't sign his name and is on the unemployment dole. I'm glad that he understood that finally. It took him a little bit of time to understand it, but he has understood it. So I think that we should not even think of getting involved in this discussion. It is for the countries concerned to do it, but it shows an inherent racism in the present American administration approach, and the use of the word third world is highly pejorative, as they say, and never it hasn't been used in the UN, for instance, for decades now. So it also shows how they actually think of the countries which have been colonized and are now coming up. They actually look down upon us because what does the word third world mean? It means those who are not in the first world. And what is the first world? The first world is the world of MAGA, the world of Donald Trump. It's as
Okay.
simple as that. It's not. It really is a good reflection of how the Americans now look at the rest of the world. Unfortunately,
Okay,
that's
all
it.
right. Joyita Basu, bringing you in as well. Your thoughts on the same. The fact that, like I said, every few months something of this sort comes out from the United States of America. Of course, there's a lot of domestic politics involved as well, right? Donald Trump is trying to prove to Americans that, listen, I'm doing this because the Biden administration allowed, in his words, a lot of illegal aliens to come into the country. And that's what's leading to some of America's gravest domestic problems right now. But ultimately using terms like third world and casting a doubt over and over again on certain parts of the world. How do you think that's going to really work out for the United States of America in the months to come?
Well, right now, whatever Trump is saying, it's a default reaction, I would say, to basically the pressure and the, I would say, the rhetoric that is coming from the MAGA base. Because you see, third world, if you scan X, I mean, where there is outright, I mean, there is complete, I mean, total wall-to-wall racism against India going on. And the thing is, you see, this word, third world, this phrase is very common over there. So you see, I mean, even Elon Musk, to my utter surprise, there is this guy, some Max guy, one of the MAGA influencers, he was talking about Somalia in that case. and he was using the word third world. You know, there is a difference in culture between the third world and what we are, and Elon Musk agreed to it. So, when you are looking at a situation like that, you have to understand, today maybe they are talking about Somalia, but if you go to X and if you go to MAGA, they have been fed, and not just that, even Steve Bannon, you know, Steve Bannon's platform for that matter, constant, I mean, tirade against, nobody is talking about Somalians over there, constant tirade against India, Indians, H1B visa holders, fraud, the kind of words that are used, it is unimaginable. So, today we may pride ourselves into thinking that we are a developing country, but to these people we are a third world, and sooner or later, today they are talking against this Afghan man who turned out to be a terrorist. Tomorrow, which they are already talking about, it will become mainstream about Indians eating with their hands. You know, that does not fit with our culture. So, this is an escalation process that will go on and that will continue. We cannot, I mean, the only way I would say that this is trend is likely to be, if not reversed, but at least checked to an extent, is a complete decimation of the Republicans in the next midterms. Without that, this is not going to stop, because this, you saw what Vance did. I mean, he literally almost disowned his wife's religion.
Yes.
He threw her under the bus. Then that is the MAGA mindset, and this is what these people are catering to. And not just that, there is a lot of unhappiness within Republicans also, that this whole narrative of the Republicans is being hijacked by what has come to be known as groypers. And who are the groypers? Groyper. Now, these groypers are the white Christian only. You know, they don't even count Jews, even if they are white skinned, they don't even count, they do not want them on their platform. White Christian nationalists, these are the groypers, they are also calling it America only, and these are the people who are fueling Trump's base, and Trump has to cater to that base. So, as I said, unless and until, even inside the Republicans there is so much unhappiness with whatever is going on. So, you think India today, they are not talking about India, but they are bracketing us. If you go, as I said, they are already calling us that, you know, okay, I mean, I do not want to even excrement, that is what they have a kind of, that is what they talk about whenever they are talking about India, okay, and they are going to do it to us also, even without doing it.
And I know some of these posts that you're talking about, Jyoti, I've also read the same post. You know, I'm also forgetting who was the author of that post, but yes, Elon Musk had reposted it. And they were just simply saying that till the time we don't get rid of the people who've come in from third world countries, we're going to lose our own culture. And in fact, if you look at Surinder Lali, bringing you in here, if I were to look at, you know, this point that Jyoti has raised, I'm just going over, as we're speaking, Elon Musk's X in the past few hours, and that's all that these some of these people are reposting. Someone has written, Afghans are a primitive people, most of whom have never encountered indoor plumbing, to say nothing of a floor. 90% told Pew that they want to live under Sharia law. You know, so these are the sort of narratives. And as Jyoti said, yes, currently we're talking about 19 countries, right, that Donald Trump and his administration have singled out. But what's to say that someday all of us will not be clubbed together, and once again, the futures of many Indians who've decided to settle abroad will be at risk?
Thank you, Devika. Devika, that's the Frankenstein monster Donald Trump has created. I mean, to me, honestly, America, the most powerful nation in the world and the most powerful man in the world, the entire country is made out to be a kabuki circus. Devika, let's take it from the top. Who is an American? They are Native Americans. I've lived in the US and I see them in miserable conditions. You know, there was a Catawba tribe next to where I used to work, and I used to see them in miserable conditions. If anybody who has proprietary is them. I mean, it's Donald Trump's mother, Marianne Trump. She was born in Scotland. His wife is from Oswald, USSR. Usha Vant, I mean, your mother's from India. The outgoing Vice President Kamala Harris, she had Indian roots. Not to mention the current ambassador designate ambassador to India, I'm not too sure, is taken charge, Sergio Gore, who's born in Uzbekistan. And Mr. Mamdani, he was born in Uganda and only became a citizen in 2018. So first of all, who defines, who's American is just a bunch of MAGAs from the Rust Belt states, and the rednecks are now going to control the narrative. And for them, anybody who's non-Westby white is American, irrespective of, the kind of shooting that internally happens. I mean, America needs to understand one thing. I mean, it's very unfortunate that what that Afghan did, and a lot more killing happens in America. I'm not going to justify that, but you stop visiting other countries. You stop indulging in regime change. You visited Afghanistan. You made a mess out of that country. There's so many people who were informers are still stuck in Afghanistan. And it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. What goes around comes around. So this is what is happening. And unfortunately, he's not even still understanding. He's thrown in another 500, National Guard, making them even more vulnerable. So Joyita said, I mean, there is definitely a big trust deficit and a mistrust within the Republican Party. But the point is, who wants to bell the cat? J.D. Vance wouldn't do it because he's trying to become the next vice president. And, the problem, Devika, now is going to happen is that this monster is going to eat America up by itself, because America was built by immigrants. I mean, if you take the immigrants out, where is NASA? Where is Lockheed Martin? Where is Boeing or the Silicon Valley or now the AI revolution? And Elon Musk himself is a South African from Canada and now he moves to America. So Devika, this is a big mess that created, and it's very unfortunate that one man sitting in that Oval Office has the power to ruin the global order, which he's doing. And for us, as Ambassador Mukherjee rightly said, we don't need to inherit these problems. We've got too many of our own, and we need to work on other things with dealing with this man and the issue of Pakistan, or, the way Bangladesh, they have interfered, or are part of the region. So I think this is something that we don't need to worry about. America seriously has a problem. As I say, Houston, we do have a big problem. Thank you, Devika.
All right, Dr. Martanja, bringing you into the conversation as well. I want to understand from your perspective, the sort of narrative building that is taking place in America. Firstly, what do you think of that? And also, it's pretty ironic, right? As Mr. Lali pointed out, it's really unfortunate, the shooting that's taken place close to the White House. But there are shootings that happen in America almost on a daily basis. I don't see any of these people ever talking about that. None of them care about the school shootings. None of them care about the fact that America today is known the world over as a place where your children cannot securely go to school. They don't want to talk about that, and they just want to. The Trump administration's entire focus has been on this narrative of illegal aliens who've come into America. What really is the end goal here? What's the end game?
See, I have a contrarian viewpoint to my esteemed colleagues. My question is, why do Indians want to go and live in America? Firstly. Secondly, I also condemn the kind of language that Trump has used. Both are equally true. And I explain both of these points one by one. See, when the intelligentsia of the country wants to go and settle in another nation state, what does it tell you about your own country? Why do they not want to, come and live and reside in India permanently? I agree that Indians have built a lot in America. America says that it's a country of immigrants. But when you see that there's a paradigm shift in the American politics, something has fundamentally changed the system. Why do Indians still want to continue there? If we build our institutions in India, very good institutions, great institutions, as they say in the literature of IR, institution building leads to great power making. I'm sorry to say, but India is yet to make, great institutions yet. It's been over 75 years since we have been independent, but still the cream of our country wants to go abroad and settle. That is the core question that we need to discuss. How long are we going to discuss that? Why are Americans saying this about us? Why are white people saying this about us? They are saying this about us because they know that we want to settle there, right? If we would have great institutions like China built for their citizens, we would not be talking in the same lines as we are doing today. Now, the focus should be that India should actually become a developed nation. And for that to happen, you need to invest a lot of money into making colleges especially colleges in science education. I have always said that Indian Institute of Technology is not an institution of science, it is an institution of technology. The kind of sciences that we used to have back in the 50s and 60s in the normal colleges across India, I'm sad to see the current state of affairs. It is deteriorating, and that's why the good students in India, anyone who can afford to go out, is going out from India. That is the thing.
Yes.
That's my
No,
assertion.
that's a very, very genuine thought and question. But Surinder Lali wants to respond to that. Surinder Lali, go ahead.
Devika, I think what Mr. Jha says makes a very good academic, bookish argument. It's a global world. Even if we don't immigrate, we'll create GCCs, technologies there. Now look at us. We're all sitting thanks to technology in the comfort of our homes without, leaving, taking our cars and going to studios and wasting time and the gasoline and the ozone layer, and we're having such an informed discussion. So I think while it makes a great academic argument, and by the way, if we immigrated, they did no favors to us. If they paid us $100,000, we created wealth worth $1 billion plus for their companies. So I'm not too sure. And plus, I've always taken reservation or exception to the India-China comparison. I mean, you can't compare an apple to an orange. You can't compare the kind of democracy and the kind of civil liberties and the rights we live in with China. You can't have the cake and eat it. So my limited point is that it's a global village, even if I don't go. I mean, there's a stand-up comedian who says that now Indians don't even need to come to America to take our jobs. They can only simply do that by the call centers in Gurgaon. So I don't think that argument holds a lot of water now. It's just that we have to understand, I mean, if you make any car in America, all the, at least 5 continents are involved in this. So you can't today say that you can't come to my home and I can't come to your home. We have to live in a cohesive manner, be it be a family state country or a federal structure. So they called us for their needs. They didn't do us no favor.
Okay.
And we went there for our needs because we didn't have the institutes. We were a young country who had just gotten independent.
Yes.
I mean, you can create a first world or a second world nation, but that doesn't happen overnight, Devika.
Yes,
We're
yes.
still the 5th largest out of the 195
But Mr. Lali, the
countries.
thing is that when we talk about living in a global village, we come from the ethos of Vasudev Kutumbakam, right? That the world is one family. That's what we've grown up with. We want everyone to succeed and do well. That's really not how the West has functioned, and it's pretty clear. History tells you that they will come, they will loot you once again and they'll go. They'll cut you 1,000 times again and go, and they're not going to bat an eyelid over it. Ambassador Baswati Mukherjee wants to make a point there as well.
I just wanted to say that what Mr. Jha has said applies correctly to the present situation. It didn't apply, of course, to the situation which we inherited in 1947, because at that time we did not have opportunities, exactly as Mr. Lali has pointed out, for the super successful Indians who became Americans. That's very true. After all, we remember Dr. Khurana, who was given the Nobel Prize in US because we could not give him those opportunities that he required way back in the 60s here in India. But now the situation is different. And I would agree with those who say that now we should create an environment, including by improving our tertiary education, by investing in R&D, to make India a great economic power, exactly the way Deng Xiaoping had said that China will only flex its muscles after it becomes a great economic power. For India to become a great economic power, we need to keep our talented Indians with us in India without putting pressure on them, by creating opportunities for them to contribute. And I'd like to tell you, Devika, that Vasudeva Kutumbakam has a line before it, which many Indians don't remember. The entire quotation is, "It is only for the generous-hearted that the world is one family." I don't see any generosity in the United States of the MAGA-dominated United States.
Okay.
It applies to India because we're generous-hearted. Maybe we need to toughen up a bit, and maybe we should do what Chawan Lao did many decades ago, when he asked talented Chinese to come back and help build the nation. We need to do that also for India. So I would agree with Mr. Jha that the time has come for us to create opportunities for our most talented young Indians to stay here and build our country, and to understand that no matter how great they are
Yes.
in MAGA America, they will always be regarded as third-class citizens. They cannot change their color. They cannot become white. They will always be at the receiving end of racism.
Absolutely. Joyita also wants to make a point there. But you know, Joyita, at the same time, this is actually the core of where the Prime Minister also wants to take the conversation in our country, right? Why do you think he is bringing up Macaulay's education over and over again? Suddenly, that's a theme that he wants to pick up in every speech that he's giving, because somewhere we claim that there has been some sort of a cultural revival in India, that there is some sense of pride, and yes, there might be, but there is still a critical class of Indians that really salivate at the thought and need of Western validation. How do we break away from that? Maybe that's the core of the conversation that we should be having more and more in this country today.
Well, my limited point is, number one, well, people will not be those we are talking about, that critical class, or there is an actual, I would say, in fact, if you anybody educated, slightly highly educated and all, there is a need, if they may not be going to the US, if you talk to parents and all, you will see they are all talking about, fine, maybe even Singapore is a possibility, maybe the UK is a problem, maybe so many people are now looking at Singapore. It matters to a lot of people. I am not talking about that immigration part, you know, why we should immigrate and all, that's a different issue altogether. My point is that, number one, how does it affect the Indians who are already there in the US? When will the time come, the situation, the way the situation is, when is the time going to come when the witch hunting starts? And in spite of having green cards and all, we know what is happening with ICE, you know, ICE. So, this, when is the time when they will be persecuted against? Number two, today we are talking about, they are already starting it against H1B visas. When is the time when Indian tourist visas and all these other visas, non-immigrant visas, when will, that is the limited point of the debate, I thought, and that is my limited point. When are these, you know, people like us will get affected because we will not be allowed entry into the US. We have no interest whatsoever to settle down in the US, but so many people have to go on business, on travel, on tourism. This is going to affect all of us.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is what, because we are now third world, brown skinned people who do not bathe, who stink, you know, but that is the, if you look at the online, that is the narrative that is being pushed by the MAGA, and it is being approved by people, you know, senior MAGA influencers, and that guy's name is, by the way, Matt Walsh, which Elon Musk agreed with. You know, their culture and our culture do not match. When you have got someone like Elon Musk talking about it, you know, validating a comment like that, what exactly, which way is the US headed? That is why I am saying this will stop only when the Republicans are really wiped out in the midterms.
Okay, all right. On that note, I've run out of time, but I thank all of our guests for joining us to take that conversation forward. It's not a black and white topic, as you've also now possibly assessed through the conversation we've had, but an important one nonetheless. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.